What's up YouTube? How goes it? Welcome to another episode. Today we're reviewing one of my personal favorite premium ultrabooks in the market. Of course, I'm talking about none other than Dell's XPS 13. For this particular configuration, it's been recently refreshed with the latest internals by Intel. So it's rocking Intel's 11th generation Core i5 quad-core processor, 8GB of DDR4 RAM, a 256GB solid-state drive. We've also got Intel's latest Iris Xe integrated graphics chipset, the latest Wi-Fi and Bluetooth standards on board, and of course a full HD 1080p screen as well. I wanted to see if this laptop still has what it takes to sustain its title of being one of the best premium ultrabooks in the market, or if it's getting a little rusty, and of course the most important question, whether or not it's worth your hard-earned cash. So as always guys, if you do enjoy this review, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. I promise we got all sorts of quality content and reviews right here. Thank you so much for watching. Without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with a quick unboxing. At first impressions, when you look at the XPS in the box, it looks like a pretty generic looking cardboard box with the Dell branding in the center and just some basic information and warning. Really not a whole lot more to see here. Once you remove that content seal itself and open the box, thankfully things get pretty interesting. Inside you'll find a smaller, sleek looking black box. It has the Dell branding in the dead center and it looks pretty nice. Once you open the box itself, here it is, the Dell XPS 13 tightly wrapped in plastic wrapping. Once you remove the wrapping itself, you can see here it is in a nice metallic silver color, but we'll come back to the laptop in just a second. Beyond that, you also have your quick start guide, instruction manual, warranty and regulation information, you know, the fun stuff. Also, inside the cardboard box, you'll find a few additional items. First and foremost, a 65-watt charging adapter, and would you look at that, it's a USB-C type charging adapter, which is fantastic. If only more PC makers would follow in Dell's lead in this regard. Also, you get a wall outlet charging cable, and that's pretty much it for stuff inside the box. Next up, let's talk about the laptop design. So the XPS 13 is using more or less the exact same design as last year's model, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing because even that design looks very modern and very elegant. Also, it's worth noting that the XPS 13 uses a nice mix of premium and standard materials, so the laptop definitely feels top notch. It weighs just a little over 2.6 pounds, which is heavy enough to feel premium, but light enough that it won't be a burden on you for prolonged periods of times where you're carrying the laptop or just commuting in general. So overall, this is definitely a very well built laptop. If you look at the top side of the laptop, the first thing you're gonna notice is that you of course have a pretty standard looking metallic silver color, but also this is in fact a genuine metallic finish. It feels super smooth and cold to the touch. There's no particular texture, so it's just a simple smooth feel. However, if you look in the center, you'll notice you have the Dell logo, which in fact has a reflective surface. As we make our way to the sides of the laptop, you can see that I/O port diversity is quite limited. So on the first side, you basically have two Thunderbolt 4 ports, one of which allows power transmission. This is of course to make sure you can charge the laptop itself. As you make your way to the other side of the laptop, you'll find you have a headphone jack, one additional USB-C port, and you also have a micro SD card reader. It would have been nice if Dell just included a full-sized SD card reader, as that's still the most popular medium for most cameras and devices in general. One more thing I do want to mention is that Dell kind of has this gimmicky feature where they basically have this battery indicator. So if you press on this button, it'll actually show you how much battery you have by the number of lights. So the less lights you have, the less battery you have in general. Finally, we make our way to the bottom of the laptop, and again, Dell has emphasized quality. So most PC manufacturers would just have a hard TPU finish at the bottom side, but not Dell. They actually have a metallic finish here as well. You also have vents for air intake, and beyond that you have XPS branding in the dead center that also has a nice reflective surface. So again, you know, I really appreciate the fact that Dell is putting their heart into this product. Not a lot of PC manufacturers do that, even at the premium level, and that's kind of where my love for the XPS series originates from. As soon as you unfold this laptop, the very first thing you're going to notice is that nice carbon fiber black finish. It feels super nice on the fingers, and it's definitely a premium choice of material again. However, one thing I have to say is that you have very limited palm rest space on this laptop, so if you have large hands, you're definitely going to feel that. Part of that is of course because of the condensed form factor that Dell has gone with the XPS series, but again, this may be a problem for some people. As far as the trackpad goes, you have a nice premium quality glass surface finish. The clicks are super tactile, it's really well balanced, and it's a pleasure to actually click on this thing. Also, it's worth noting it's a little short in the height department, but again, that's because of the condensed form factor of the laptop. Making our way onto the keyboard, the keys feel super tactile. They also have a nice deep travel, and the mechanism is really well balanced overall, making it a joy to type on this thing. And also, it's worth noting, despite the tactile feel, the keys are also very sturdy at the exact same time, so they don't feel cheap, wobbly, or loose in the slightest, which again makes this a very nice typing experience. Unfortunately, the backlighting is rather weak in my opinion. I think that's because it's really far from the actual keys themselves, and also there's a fair bit of light leakage from the corner of the keys because again of the distance between the backlighting and the actual keyboard itself. Also, it's worth noting there are no dedicated media keys. They are all baked into the traditional function keys, and yes, you do have a isolated power button that also serves as a fingerprint scanner. Past the keyboard, we come to the hinge itself, and I have to say the Dell XPS is probably one of the only PC makers that actually have a hinge that's probably more or less in comparison or equivalent to the one you would find on a MacBook. Because it's so sturdy, it does not wobble, and it just stays in place. Unfortunately, a lot of PC manufacturers missed the ball on this one. Also, I like the fact that you have a magnetic strip at the top of the laptop, so when you actually fold it, it stays in place and does not wobble around. As far as display fitting goes, Dell has achieved a 91.5 screen to body ratio. This basically means you have a super thin chin and ultra thin bezels that make the screen look super expansive. Unfortunately, at the very top of the laptop, you still have a less than ideal 720p webcam that may as well make you look like a Minecraft character. As far as display quality goes, Dell is not joking around with the XPS model. So you have a base resolution of 1920 by 1080, also known as Full HD. However, you can opt to get a 4K display with the higher configurations. For all intents and purposes, we're looking at the base display. So you basically have a superb color accuracy of 96.4% sRGB, which means colors are nice and vivid. It's fantastic if you're doing Photoshop editing, color grading, or video editing in general. Everything's gonna look nice and crisp. Furthermore, it's also worth noting you have a peak brightness of 400 nits. This is more than ample for any possible indoor setting, and also will work in most outdoor settings without a sweat. The screen looks super bright, and also I have to give a shout out to Dell for great viewing angles. So whether you're viewing at it directly or from a particular angle, there's little to no washout, so I always appreciate displays that put a high quality display panel. Another really important aspect, of course, of buying a laptop is its general performance. For the most part, I'm happy to say the XPS 13 is a very capable laptop, so I'm not gonna lie to you, in a real world test, this laptop won't appear any faster or any slower than most other modern day Ultrabooks. It opens everything super fast, whether that's web browsing, watching some Netflix or YouTube, or writing up a Word document in Microsoft Word. It's all gonna feel relatively fast. Where the real test, of course, comes in when you start using more resource-intensive applications. So for example, in my case, I used Adobe Rush to do some 1080p video editing, and I found for the most part this laptop has no problem keeping up with it. However, it does start heating up when you add too many effects, and that can lead to the occasional thermal throttling, which basically translates into the occasional frame drops. If you start doing something more intensive like 4K video editing, you definitely start noticing the laptop heating up way more, which results in even more frame drops. As far as gaming goes, you can definitely game on the integrated Iris Xe chipset, and you'll have a reasonably pleasurable experience as long as you're okay playing on low settings for most AAA titles, expecting no more or around 30 frames per second basically, but your mileage may vary depending on the game you're playing. Now, as far as surface temperatures and fan noise is concerned, generally speaking, this laptop hovers around 23 degrees Celsius under idle workloads. However, if you really start stressing it, you can reach an average surface temperature of up to 47 degrees, but again, this is only if you take it to extreme workloads. As far as fan noise goes, this is a super quiet laptop. However, depending on the task you're doing, the noise level can range anywhere from 29 decibels to all the way up to 37 decibels, but even at its absolute highest, the noise is not super intrusive to your workload and usually quiets down as soon as the task level starts degrading in terms of the workload effort. As far as battery life goes, I'm gonna be honest, the new M1 MacBooks have kind of spoiled my expectations of what a reasonable battery life should look like. However, the XPS 13 definitely holds its own. So you can get up to 14 hours of battery life on a single charge if you're doing light usage, like let's say you're watching a video on YouTube and the occasional web browsing, as long as you keep your brightness levels around 50%. However, if you are doing moderate usage at 100% brightness, that quickly drops to around the 7 to 8 hour mark in a real world test. And if you are doing resource intensive activities non-stop, like let's say gaming for example, at peak brightness, the battery life can easily drop to around the 2.5 hour mark, which is not unexpected. Generally speaking, battery life is pretty competitive on this thing. Next up, I want to talk about sound quality. So the Dell XPS 13 is rocking a stereo speaker setup and it can get pretty loud for the most part. Also, the sound is fairly crisp even at high volume levels. Basically, the speaker is about as good as an external laptop speaker should be, but it's definitely not the best I've heard in the market. But have a quick listen for yourself and you be the judge. So what's my final take on the Dell XPS 13? Well, priced at $1,050 for this configuration, this is a pretty well balanced laptop. You definitely get awesome build quality and awesome materials, so it definitely feels premium, looks sleek and modern. Also, you have one of the best screens in the industry, hands down. There are very few PC manufacturers who actually make a screen quality of this kind on laptops, and honestly, creative users will definitely appreciate the high quality display over here. Also, you get a fantastic trackpad and keyboard experience to go along with that. One of my gripes with this laptop is that it has very limited connectivity options, so you only get 3 USB-C ports and a micro SD card reader. I wish Dell was a little more creative in that regard, but some people might just attach a dongle and say what's the big deal, so it's about preference of course. Also, one other thing I will say is if you have the extra budget, try to get the 16GB RAM variant. That will definitely help you future-proof in the years to come, especially considering 8GB is now kind of like the bare minimum you want on a laptop, with 16GB kind of being the more streamlined option per se. Other than that, the webcam could also be improved just at 720p. It's kind of getting dated to be honest, but I'm hoping they'll improve that with future iterations. But overall guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it to be helpful. I definitely think whether you're a student or a power user, this laptop has something for everyone and it's a premium quality machine 100%. So if you did enjoy this review, hit that like button, consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the new Dell XPS 13. I'll catch you in the next one. Soul of Tech, logging out.